the representative of Alexandra Sewell, the Senior Project Manager, Stakeholders Democratic Network, SDN, who is going to deliver the second lecture, which now has become the first lecture. Please welcome Florence IbokAbas, the Program Manager of SDN. Please let's put our hands together for Florence. Florence, you're welcome.
Good morning, everyone. What I'm giving here is not necessarily a lecture. I would like to call it a conversation. But before I begin, I'd like to observe all protocols and recognize all our guests from near and far. The theme of this particular award ceremony is very interesting: peace, security, and development. I believe it is a theme that we have constantly talked about, whether it is at a restaurant with our friends, whether it is at a bar, whether it is in our offices. It is a theme that we have continued to agitate for because of the challenges that have continued to pervade this region from generation to generation. As an organization, we have been working in the Niger Delta over the past 16 years, focused specifically on empowering communities to engage with other stakeholders who have the responsibility, resources, and the ability to cause developmental change and improve human security. You will agree with me that the problems within the Niger Delta do not require just one type of solution. They require a multifaceted approach. And that is why, as an organization, we focus on different themes. These include economic diversification, environment, governance, and security, as well as stabilization. As a learning organization, we have continued to shape our strategies to ensure that projects benefit those who are in need the most, those especially at the grassroots. We also utilize what they call a propositional approach, where we work with a diverse group of stakeholders, including the federal government of Nigeria, state governments, parastatals, civil society organizations, and the private sector. For we recognize that the challenges of development that continue to pervade the region require a whole of government and a whole of society strategy. It is a collective responsibility. I'm sure you must admit that we achieve better results when we put communities in charge of their own development agenda. A return to the practice of federalism in the country, which encourages the full legitimate participation of local people in the exploitation of resources that occur in their communities and the payment of requisite taxes by local and state governments, is essential for this to happen. The federal government of Nigeria has shown the way to this through the enactment of legislation such as the Presidential Artisanal Gold Mining Development Initiative, which legitimizes the exploitation of gold and other minerals by local people in the north who mine these and sell them to the central bank. This will bring an effective end to the shadowy porphyry sector, encourage legitimate funding into the sector, infrastructure, clean environmental practice, and end the violence perpetrated by complicit security operatives in areas where artisanal oil refining occurs. As an organization, we focus on research and evidence-based advocacy. Our research, titled More Money, More Problems, which we published in 2018, called for an alternative approach to tackle the artisanal oil industry in the Niger Delta. And our analysis focused on how the value chain has adapted and changed over a 5-year period, that is to say from 2012 to 2017. Our findings show that annual earnings across the supply chain increased 24 times to more than 240 billion naira, which is about 540 million pounds over that period. All levels of artisanal oil refining have become better organized and more profitable than 5 years ago. That is to say, from 45 to 60% profit for refinery owners. There are 5 times the number of refineries in operation capable of producing larger volumes of fuel. The security service approach to actually stop this industry has disrupted innocent citizens and caused enormous pollution, ironically. The rate at which the security services destroy refineries cannot keep up with the rate at which they are established or reestablished. It is estimated that the increase in bribes has continued over a period of time to security services, which also, ironically, is the fastest growing part of the value chain. Why is it important to pay attention to these findings? It shows that this industry has a capability of perhaps filling in certain gaps within our economy. It may also help address the issues related to resource justice. We also conducted research this year titled Dirty Fuel that found that fuel imported to Nigeria by NNPC and others is toxic and poorer quality than artisanal fuel produced in the Niger Delta. Diesel, both official and unofficial, poor quality, but profile less polluting than imported. I must also add here, and this is a caveat, that the Pole-Fire fuel is still below international standards. I think it is important that we recognize that. SDN also recognizing that in establishing alternative approaches to the artisanal oil industry and also trying to find alternative livelihoods for our people engaged in this practice, engaged in dialogue and scoping process in Bayelsa and River State. So we piloted alternative livelihoods between 2017 and 2020. Some of these include swamp rice farming, where we were able to have a yield almost triple the national average. That is to say, freshwater riverine areas present very good conditions for commercial rice farming. Secondly, fish capturing, culturing, and processing, where we had an average 50% increase in profit across the value chain. We increased access to efficient kilns to smoke the fish with less firewood and toxins. Thirdly, we also did work in cassava, where we had cassava processing factory in Gokana, River State, and setting up a welding workshop. Why is this all important? Our surveys over the years have actually shown that young people engage in some of these shadowy sectors because they're looking for work to do. They engage in violence because they feel there's no alternative to survival. And being able to pilot these approaches has shown that if we are committed to getting our region out of the doldrums of poverty, that indeed we may be able to start seeing a reduction in some of the problems that have continued to pervade the region. So our results also show that individuals involved in the artisanal oil industry can be encouraged to leave and work in alternative livelihoods, which can also diversify our local economy away from oil. As you're well aware, the oil prices on the international market continue to plummet, which poses very serious problems for a country that is highly dependent on this resource. Other pilots that we have actually launched included an innovation hub called the Ken Sariwa Innovation Hub, which is based here in River State in the city of Port Harcourt. And what we try to do is see how we can get young people a lot more engaged in the digital economy. And so what we've been able to do as a hub over the past few years, incubate startups. We've managed to get a partnership with Facebook. This is our second year of the partnership, with Google, with Andela, and we've been able to train thousands of youth, mostly in River State, but also Delta State. We have also had plans for other alternative livelihoods, and please note that we normally engage with communities to be able to establish what will work for them, as opposed to going with a prescription. And so one of the things we discovered is that gas to power is still on demand in some communities. The potential to harness some of the flares that are produced as a result of oil production. Compressed natural gas as well for boats and vehicles through conversion, again, of flares. The environmental cleanup and remediation here in Ogoniland and other parts of the Niger Delta also presents some very important alternative livelihoods. Also, forest and biodiversity management, whether it is mangrove, swamp, and tropical rainforests, also have the potential to do that. And so as an organization, we continually seek partnerships with civil society organizations, with the private sector, and also engage with state governments, because we believe that collectively we might just be able to have approaches that can help improve human security within the region. The recent statistics produced by the National Bureau of Statistics on unemployment in Nigeria show that the South-South is leading. And of course, these statistics are extremely disturbing. I believe the figure is about 40% or thereabout in that range. And so it is a pleasure to stand here and to be able to talk about a theme that we're passionate about as an organization, and I'm passionate about as an individual. Thank you very much.